everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for our bite-sized coaching session. My name is Rowe Leathers, and I am a senior coach here at the university, and I am celebrating my 10 years this month. So I know a little bit about career coaching. And I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to make sure that I only take a small portion of your lunch hour. I think career coaching is something really important that unfortunately not everybody has that hour to dedicate to it and planning it ahead of time. So these bite-sized sessions, I'm hoping, is going to give you what you need to get things started. And of course, this is aimed to just get you started in whatever topic we're discussing, point you in the right direction. And should you want more in-depth assistance after we go through this, we encourage students and alumni to reach out to Career Services to work with coaches directly. Okay, so let's dive into this. Skills-based job search. Job searching is certainly not a fun task. The most common way we search is by our titles, which can be limiting. Companies use variations of titles and positions. They have different focuses. They have different criteria, and that can sometimes be confusing when you're looking for a specific role. So my goal today is to help you find some clarity on how you can change up this process and come from a different direction. But it all begins with you. Okay. All right, so the first step is assessing your skills. And only you can identify the skills that you have. It is your job to figure out what those skills are so that you can offer them up to potential employers. And if you're not quite sure what those skills are, or you want to be reminded that you actually have skills and have value, there are certain tools you can use online. These are assessment tools. We like the ones that are administered by the Department of Labor because they're very robust and very reliable. And those are careeronestop.org and onetcenter.org. You can go to those 24/7. By identifying your skills, it will give you clarity. Okay, it's really important for you to know what skills you are offering so that you can articulate them and communicate them to your friends and family, to your network, right? Because no one's going to be able to help you if they don't know what it is exactly you are offering. People may know that you are job searching, or maybe they don't know. I know many people who don't like to share that they are job searching, but we sometimes have to share that information so our friends and family and network can keep an eye out for us. If we are able to identify and articulate the skills that we have, we will then be giving them opportunities to help us. Okay. And those transitioning out of the military, I've spoken to many of our students, and some of them come and say, none of my skills from the military are going to be worthwhile out in the non-military workforce. And that's not always the case. There are some forgotten skills, and there's assumptions that we make. But military, when you come out of the military, there's so much training you've received, so much training, so much leadership. And I think if you take the time to really assess what those are, organize them. And I think organization of our skills is part of understanding what those skills are. You'll be able to pinpoint some of your stronger talents and be able to explore them to see how they are going to translate into the non-military sector. And career coaches can help you with that as well. And let me give you an example of this. I did once, this is a few years ago, I did a seminar for military veterans, and many of them were working on aircrafts. And the assumption was for when they got out of the military that they would work for airlines. And many of them said, no, I don't want to work for airlines because I've heard horror stories coming from friends and colleagues who had gone before them. And so after speaking with them, excuse me, we discussed that expanding to other industries that value the same skills that they have, and energy companies that run those turbines that you see on hilltops, they require the same training as aircraft mechanics. They require an AMP, airframe and power plant certifications to work on them. So when you look at it that way, go, wow, it's so far apart. You have aircraft engines, and now they're going to be working into the energy field. But that is the result of looking at your skills and the value, which other industries are going to value them. Okay. Look at your hobbies as well. Sometimes hobbies or side gigs can become your primary work if there's value in them, and if it's a service or product that people will want to buy. There are transferable skills that you can bring in from other areas as well, and that's really important when you're assessing your skills. And people say, well, I don't know exactly what transferable skills are. Well, they could be really anything that helps you function successfully in a role. Communication skills, right? Everyone communicates, but there's a difference. If you're communicating with maybe a handful of people in your workplace, okay, maybe it's not such a great skill. But if you, in your past roles, have communicated to roomfuls of people or given trainings, that is a skill that is going to transfer to other industries. Creativity, leadership, critical thinking, problem solving, all of that comes to play. And one of the biggest things is customer service. If an organization is selling a service or a product, there has to be customer service. And there are plenty of people who have gone from one industry to the next based on customer service because that is what they're good at. They can take that anywhere. It's one of those jobs, occupations, or roles that has no borders. There's no boundaries. Similarly with technology or IT. There's IT in every industry. So if you're in IT and you think you're limited, think again, right? Every industry has a need for technology. So customer service technology, there are certain things that if you have them, you can sharpen those skills and apply them to other areas. And a perfect example. I love giving examples, and I hope it's helping you visualize how they can apply to you. I had a student who was a healthcare administrator, and she was tired and no longer wanted to do what she was doing. And what she told me was that she wanted to make a difference in what she's doing, and it wasn't happening nickel and diming at a doctor's office. She wanted to work in a place where there's bringing value to everyday people. She wanted to work for a nonprofit. Well, nonprofit organizations also have a need for administrators. So it's not that she didn't like what she was doing. She just didn't like the environment. So I suggested that she pivot. Let's find a nonprofit organization that aligns with your values and do the same thing for them. And that's what made her happy. Skills can come from volunteer work and hobbies, as we had mentioned. So take inventories of those too. Do you have a love for photography, for writing apps, for whatever it may be? It could become a parallel career. Years ago, I had a younger student who came to me and says, I want to go into sports coaching, but I don't have any experience. After speaking with him and learning that he has been playing sports since he was in his early days as a child, preteen, and continued to show up to local events offering his assistance to coaches. I challenged him to create a parallel resume just based on what he did in sports. And he surprised himself that he had actually had that kind of experience already. It wasn't paid, but it still counted. Okay, it still counts. So look at soft skills that are valued all across the board. All right, so once you've identified your skills, you've learned to articulate them, you've learned what soft skills are, what do you do with them, right? Where do you go? Where do you look? Your career ecosystem. And I love this, your ecosystem. We know what an ecosystem, right? But you have one for your career too, because in whatever role you're in, selling a product or selling a service, there are vendors, there are customers, there are suppliers, there are manufacturers, all coming together to create the service or product to sell it to the market. You all speak the same language. You all understand how the process works, how the operation works, and the function. You have that knowledge where you can just change your perspective and possibly work for the other side. You can possibly work for suppliers, for the customers, for the manufacturers, because you understand what the business is. That is your career ecosystem. Look to see what that is. But you have to be realistic about your goals too, right? Your search. And this is where I always ask, what are the main industries in your geographical area? Because whatever they are, you must find your place there if you're not looking to relocate. Identify the key players. Who are the big employers? Because whomever they are, whatever the industry is, you have to find your spot there. So you have to be realistic. And I once had a student who wanted to be part of marine biology, but he was landlocked in the Midwest and he could not relocate at the time. So realistically, he knew he was tied, restricted to lakes, rivers, ponds, whatever water stream there was in his area. So you have to be realistic about that. And the same thing for those who want to work for the government. That's look at the country and kind of figure out where the concentration of the types of jobs you're looking for. Those who want to work in government contracting maybe want to consider looking at relocating to the Washington, D.C. area. Those wanting to work maybe in IT, maybe the West Coast, Seattle, San Jose, figure out where the value is. If you want to work in energy, maybe the Gulf, where they have a lot of oil companies. So take a look to see and assess if you are being realistic about your geographical area and the types of jobs available there. Okay. And then, of course, once you're looking, visit the web pages, visit the corporate offices, and follow the companies that you want to work for online on social media. Because any announcement they may have, they will put on social media blasts. And you want to make sure that you are one of the first to receive it. Okay. Follow them on LinkedIn as well. Look for new innovations happening in the industry you're in. I always tell students, prepare for jobs that are for the future and not the ones that are being left behind. For example, this is a very clear example. In technology for many, many years now, there was, everybody wanted to get into artificial intelligence. AI was everywhere. They're talking about it, they're studying it, but you know what? Now with this chat GPT, it is everywhere, right? Everywhere we are. So those who studied it a handful of years ago are now finding their roles. So look to see where your industry is going and how things are being innovated. Because when you take your career, okay, when you find out what the innovations and the technologies are happening in your industry, okay, and you're able to leverage your background in that industry and you meld it with your degree, that is your sweet spot. That is how you become a unique candidate, because no one else can bring that to the marketplace. So knowing the value that you bring and how you're able to leverage your career history is key. Okay, let me give you another example. I have lots of examples. I've been here 10 years, so I've spoken to many, many students. This is a few years ago. I had a student who just completed his degree in IT technology, and he came to me and says, I don't know what to do with this. I'm a construction guy. I only chose technology because my friends and family said that's where the future is and that's where the money is. I did great in class, but I don't know how to apply this. I don't know how to make money with this. I'm in construction. Well, at the time, it was the very beginning where smart buildings were being created, right? Construction companies were implementing technology into houses, into businesses. So I told him, well, wouldn't it be great if there was somebody like you who can speak both sides, understand how construction works, and can speak the language of technology? And he lit up and he says, you know what? That is so awesome, because that's exactly where I'm at. That was his sweet spot. And at the time, very unique. So for you, I challenge you to do the same. Where is your sweet spot with your career history, your degree, and where's technology coming together? Find out what that is, because that may be your path to the future. And of course, make sure when you're looking for these occupations that you search based on skills, because now we just discussed how some of these similar roles are not going to be found in the same industry. And companies are calling them something different. So identify your skills and do your pop that into those search boxes and see what comes up. If you have a license or certification or training, search based on that, because you never know what's going to pop up, right? And then you draft your resume accordingly, right? And when I say that, we're going to go a little bit more into tailoring your resume into the next slide, but drafting your resume is very important. I know a lot of you are probably saying, I don't have time to create a resume for every single role. Okay, let's step back here. If you are looking for a job, a role that's very similar, right? The top 5 competencies are going to be the same. What you're going to want to do is when you're looking at a job description, identify those top competencies that are very similar. But you know what's different? The priority. Each company is going to have a different priority. So what you're going to want to do is just change that part up. If company A is looking for somebody that's a project manager, you're going to want to switch up your resume and showcase that you've managed projects, right? And then if company B, for a similar role, is looking for somebody that can be a trainer, can communicate to masses, and you have that on your resume, you switch that up. That's what you highlight. The goal is for you to walk the reader through your resume and get them to the end where they go, oh, okay, this applicant has what we're looking for, understands what we're looking for. We need to talk to this person, bring him in for an interview. That's it. That's the goal of your resume. Your resume is not to get you the job, it's to get you the interview. Because I'm sure a lot of you have gotten the interview, but not the job. So let's make sure that we understand resumes is to get you the interview, is to look good on paper, and then for them to bring you in to find out if you are in the entire package that they're looking for. Okay. All right, let's get to the next part. I hope I'm not going too fast here. I want to be respectful of your lunch hour. Okay, so, all right, tailoring your resume. We just talked about that. That is key. Your job is to help the reader / hiring manager / recruiter understand how to hire you, right? Draft your resume for each position that we just talked about. Here's a tool you can use, jobscan.co. If you Google JobScan, it will pop up. It is a third-party website that allows you to cut and paste your resume after you have tailored it, and then cut and paste the job description. It will run a scan and tell you how much percentage is a match. And then it will tell you why it's not a match in what areas. For a free membership or free profile, you will be given 5 free scans per month. So ration them out. Make sure that you are tailoring your resume before you run these scans, right? Jobscan.co. All right, so show your relevant competencies. Just like I said, you identify your competencies and skills, you must identify the competencies and skills the employer is looking for and has listed. Use the job description as your guide in tailoring that resume. And note, it sounds really daunting, tailoring a resume. I don't know what to put on there. Look at the job posting as a help wanted sign that has everything the employer is looking for. They're telling you what they need. Your job is to draft your resume as the solution to their problem. Okay? And how you do that is you highlight your competency that you have that matches, and then you describe how you've had success applying that skill. If it's communication or training, you talk about how many training sessions you've had, how many people you've trained, and how successful and how you've contributed to the organization. Okay. Refrain from just listing your responsibilities, because that's just a laundry list. What they are looking for is they want to know how you have contributed to your past employers. Okay, remember, walk the reader through your career history, help them understand how you're going to fit into their organization. Okay. All right. And the next step is network. So now you've got a resume, right? You've identified your skills, you've figured out how to articulate them and communicate them to your friends and family. And now you've looked at your career ecosystem and you have tailored your resume, but you still need help. How are you going to get the word out even more so? Your network. And I know some of you are going to say, I don't like talking to people. I don't, I don't know what to say. Well, this is something that we're all going to have to do as adults. It's part of adulting, right? Reignite your connections, past, present, of people you have worked with. And I like LinkedIn for this. If you're no longer connected with these people, or it's been a while, LinkedIn is a great place for you to reach out to people that you haven't talked to in years. Congratulate them, connect with them, congratulate them on any achievements that they've had that you just now are learning about. Follow them, find out what they're looking for, what they're sharing, and make sure you do the same. Create a profile that tells people that you are job searching, what your specialty is, but do not paste your resume online. Your LinkedIn profile should not be a duplicate of your resume, right? If you put too much information out there about yourself, you can screen yourself out of opportunities too. Just like if you put too many skills and areas of expertise, jack of all trades, master of none, you can dilute your qualifications because you're confusing the reader. So if you need help with your LinkedIn profile, you can reach out to Career Services and we can take a look, okay? But this is really important. LinkedIn is such a great tool. I also like it for researching. Once you've identified the role that you want, find 3, 4, 5 people on LinkedIn already doing it, okay? Because they've already set the path. You can follow what they're doing. If you're not ready for that dream job that they have now, look to see what they did 5, 7 years ago, because that led them to that path, and it may do the same for you. So you don't have to invent this path. You just have to find one that's going to make sense for you to follow. Okay. And then join groups. LinkedIn has lots of groups for everything. Join groups because it's easier to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn when you belong to a group. There's a common ground there, right? I mean, if you're already on LinkedIn, I'm sure you've had strangers reach out to you and you're like, who are you? We don't have anything in common. I don't know who you are. And their request becomes ignored. Okay. So let's go back to network. Okay. Assess your employment ecosystem. We've talked about that. You notice that I'm repeating things because I want to make sure that I'm driving these ideas and that it's going to stick with you. Okay. Identify related industries as well, not just your ecosystem, but related industries. The industries are often related to each other that supports certain, like the gas, fuel industry is related to the car industry, that kind of thing, right? Housing, appliances, all of that's all related. So figure out how big of a span you have to work with, right? Okay, and most importantly, have a positive outlook. Job searching, like I said, is not fun. It can be daunting and it can take longer than we think it should, but we need to stay positive because people will hire those who are going to be a positive addition to their team. They're not going to bring somebody in as part to join their team if that person is negative. Leave any venting offline. No, make sure that you come across positive, share information on LinkedIn, be active on LinkedIn. You don't have to write the articles. You just have to share them. And what it shows is that you are researching your industry. That's how you build your brand. For example, me. When you see my picture on LinkedIn, you're going to say, oh, that's Rowe. She's just going to talk about career stuff. So when you want to know about career stuff and you see my picture, you're going to stop to see what I'm posting about, right? But if you're looking for something like rocket science and you see my picture, you're going to gloss over me because that's not my brand. My brand is career coaching. What's your brand? And again, if you need help, reach out to Career Services for some brainstorming ideas, and we'll help you with that. Okay, that is all I have, guys. I hope like I said, these bite-sized coaching sessions, we want to make sure we reach out to everybody, and we know that not everybody has time to schedule an hour. So my goal was to just take a small portion of your lunchtime. I hope you walk away with some bit of information, and I have maybe 4 minutes left of your time. So if you have any questions, type them up. What are they? And if you have no questions, I thank you for coming in today. Next week, I have one on tell me about yourself from the interview series. If you don't see that in your email, reach out to Career Services and we will send you the link. I should have had that ready, but I do not. So I apologize. If I click off Teams, I might lose you all. All right, John says, I've seen a lot of positions that are remote. How do you secure an interview with remote positions? Okay, one thing to keep in mind with remote positions, okay? Generally, those are not entry level. Because if you're going to have autonomy working at home, they're going to want to make sure that you are experienced in that area. So make sure that's a fit. But if you are a fit for a remote position, generally the hiring process is the same. They know that they're hiring for remote. So what you have to do is really, really drive that you have the skills and talents they're looking for. So whatever that position is, you got to make sure. Let's say I'm applying for a remote position as a career coach. We are remote positions already, but let's say I'm going to talk up how I use technology to communicate with my students, just like here. I'm going to talk about the areas that I cover and how I stay connected with my office and how we facilitate meetings, being able to do that. So that way they know that I can hit the ground running. That's one thing about working with remotes. They want to make sure that you are going to be able to function and operate independently. Okay. So if you have something that you are trying to target specifically, reach out to Career Services. All right, so Curtis has, if I'm in a master's program, I haven't earned diploma yet, is it likely I can find a job in the industry, an area I'm pursuing academically? Looking to teach, generally, you have to have a higher degree than what you're trying to teach. So if you're trying to teach at the associate's level, you must have a bachelor's degree. If you're trying to teach at the bachelor's level, they're going to want you to have a master's degree. And if you're teaching at a master's, you're going to need a PhD. But it's also going to have to be combined with some field experience, right? They're going to want to know, where's your experience coming from? Just like any other job. It's competitive. But you approach it similarly with the same ingredients. I'm tracking to earn a degree before the end of the year and on Dean's list. Surely this will tell a hiring manager I will follow through and complete the program. No, it doesn't guarantee them. They will only count with what you have. I mean, you can convey that you're working on your master's, but and they can take that as a compensating factor, but it will not check the box if it's a requirement. Okay. Let's see, I work in telecom. I'm in space studies progress. I'd like to redirect career and hopefully work for an aerospace company. All right, reach out to Career Services because this is very specific to you. Request to work with the career coach that is in STEM. Okay. Any other questions? I hope this has been helpful, guys. This is something that I think is important. Again, this is to start you in the right direction. There's going to be gaps that you're going to need to be filled in looking for your job, but make sure that you reach out to Career Services when you need that help. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful week. And again, if you are interested in attending the Tell Me About Yourself, reach out to Career Services or look on your eCampus for a banner. Let's see here. Stephanie says, do you have any tips for job seekers with long employment gaps? Have prepared combination. Okay, long employment gaps. It depends on what you do with them. If you you can put in volunteer work, or if you had to take care of family members, that's something that you can put. But generally, when there's a gap, employers want to know, what did you do during that time? Why was there a gap? And if it was medically related, we really don't want to say that. But you have to present it in a way that it minimizes the gap and highlight your other skills. So for something like this, I would suggest reaching out to work with a career coach. Just let us know what industry you're in, and you'll be matched with the right industry coach. Okay. You're very welcome, Stephanie. Any other questions? All right, it sounds like we have wrapped up for this session. Thank you so much. And we will see you at the next one.